next thing we have, let me see, is, yep, we're down to a Billboard Message Setup. Okay, Billboard. Remember, if in the front end where you've got the Billboard button, you select on that, you've got the 3 columns being specials of the day, desserts, and sold out items. And above that, we've got this big banner message that comes from management. And management, to put something in there, goes into this function within the back office. This is a message that's available to all staff, regardless of what your particular system interface is as well. So if you're clock in and out only, you still have access to Billboard so that you can see this message. If you're a driver, you still have access to the Billboard so that you can see this message. So this way, all staff will be able to see this message. And whatever you put within here will be available to them within the Billboard function. Banner message. If you're working with a poll display on the system, not so much a customer display, but just a simple little banner poll display, then this is the message that will marquee across or scroll across the poll display when you are not in a transaction. So in here, welcome to PixelPoint POS. You can have that in there, or you can change that to the name of the establishment. Thank you for coming, or welcome, or something like that. If it's one of those things where you want to have more than one message on here, then all you have to do is just, when you come to the end of this line, press the enter like this, and then type in your next message that will happen here. Now what will happen is, as it marquees across, it'll show, for example, welcome to PixelPoint POS. And just as POS is starting to marquee off the screen, then the next line will come on being SD space FSA blah blah blah, whatever it happens to be, that will be on there. So that way it'll migrate from one display to another that way. Weather conditions. All right, you remember at the front end we also had all the weather conditions that you can apply in the system, as well as to whether it was cloudy or rainy or sunny or something like that. And that would reflect across on your reports, because it's important to show that when you're reporting how your outdoor dining sections were for sales. Okay, so I got my patio, it was raining today, so my sales were down. It was sunny today, so my sales were up. So within here we have all of the different conditions that you can apply within the system, and of course they are weighted values as well, because there is a report that you can get in the back end to kind of review in terms of the weather and how it was. Yes, it's a weather report, and then within there it'll have weighted values, and it will add them all up and tally and say, well, this summer was really good, last summer kind of sucked, and so on. So that kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with that. All right, now after that we have Data Miner Client and Report Viewer. I'm actually going to put these two off. I'm going to just tuck them aside, and we're going to cover them within their own special presentation maybe next week. And the reason for that is because it's a little lengthy to get into all of those, and we'll talk specifically on reports as well. So we'll just kind of tuck those aside for the moment. Next thing we have here is System Log. Now System Log is basically a way of going in and just taking a look what's been going on within the back office, who's been in here tinkering around, and what's happening with this. So if I go into System Log, this is a log of all activity within the back office, and on here I can take a look for today, last 30 days, last 60 days, and within a given date range as well. And so on this, I've got all this information showing up within here. We'll just take a look. All right, here's everything that's been happening for today. And on this, I can do filters as well. I want to filter by all employees or specific employees. So for example, there's supervisor, which is everything that I've been doing today. But if I went down to John, the employee, for example, he hasn't done anything in the back end. So I can be very specific on that. Also, and specific actions as well in terms of what they've been doing within the back end. Editing records, inserting records, deleting records, all kinds of stuff like that. Then you can actually have that isolated on there. So I want to see who's been doing whatever. And also you can be very specific on specific database tables as well, working with employees or payroll or product information, promotional information, anything like that that's been changed around. So I can be very specific so that when I'm looking through a whole screen after screen of all these different things, I can do some filtering on these to look to isolate on specific thing I'm looking for on this. Also on any one of these as well, if there's any detailed information that's available, then you can flip on over to Detail, and it will give you detailed information in terms of what was done on this. So for example, on here, editing of the product number, a new value of 2048, it was done by supervisor at this date and this time, and here's detailed information within this is the actual database record that we're looking at within here that pertains to that given item, that item change. And this is pulled out from, I'll tell you about database tables later on. Okay, but anyway, that gives you an idea of what you can do within this. So it's basically just an auditing tool for all kinds of stuff that's been going on in the system. Backup now, I am going to put backup aside, and we'll talk about that on another presentation as well. And for today, we're going to finish off with this one here, which is Alert Manager. Now, Alert Manager is an additional utility that we've added into the system, and it's a great little thing because basically it's a self-reporting tool. Okay, so that means that the system actually can go in and it will report when certain conditions are met, and it will report it in a manner that you may want to be alerted on. So for example, I've got 3 set up within here right now. First of all, one I've got here is no sales alert. So basically if there was like a no sale function, at the end of the day, calculate through and tell me what I had for no sales on the system. Transaction is out of range. Okay, I'll just explain on that. So here I've got, for example, I have a really large transaction that was done on the system. Hey, I may want to be aware of this particular thing. Or here, this is a good one as well. POS exception alert. Okay, so I've got an exception error that showed up on the system. Now, this is really great actually for dealers. The reason being is that you can be notified whenever there's an exception error on any one of your clients' POS systems. I'll show you in just a moment in terms of the nature of the reporting of it. But if they do get an error on their system, then you don't have to wait for them to call you up and say, hey, I got an error on our system and things aren't working right. You may actually get a text message on that. Oh, yes, I'm aware of that, and it's error number 1, 2, 3, and here's what we're going to do to fix it. So you can be right on top of things that way. Now, in terms of adding it, I'm going to actually create one right now. I'm going to go into Add Alert Schedule. And in here, I have a list of all of the different forms of alerts that you can do on the system. Now, over on the left-hand side, it defaults to all. Okay, so this is all of them. And I can be very specific in terms of if it's going to be an alert based on cash management operations, sales operations, system-related, labor-related, anything like that, then you can select on any one of these and it will break it out that way. Also, any type as well. Within here, if there's anything that have been scheduled or you're using as plugins, plugins are basically all of these different applications, then you can isolate specifically on those as well. So these are the plugins, which is the default ones, and if there's any that have been scheduled, like the 3 that I've created, then they're showing up within here. So based on any of those types, just to filter things out, because you may have a whole bunch of these on the system. Okay, so within here, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create a sales type one. So I'm going to select on sales. Here's all the sales ones. I'm going to do just a sales alert, okay? And so I'll select on this particular one, and I'll select on OK. Now what's going to happen is a wizard's going to show up on the screen, and on this wizard, I can walk through each one of these different things when setting this up with the criteria for it. It will be added onto the system, and then this thing will just run in the background, and it will monitor the systems until this criteria is met, and then alert whoever on it. So the first thing we have here is schedule. In here we have, how do I want to schedule this? On an interval of time, so you can choose on that. On a specific day of the week, so calculate it, on specifically Wednesdays, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday to Friday, or something like that. Or selective days of the month, in which case then you can choose a specific date as to when you want it done. So maybe I want this to figure out at the end of the month, or on Wednesdays, or every 2 hours. The next thing we have down here is specific times. When calculating out and applying this, all day, being from time to time, or only between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock or something. I can be very specific on this. Then this is a sales alert. So show me, well, we'll take a look at the criteria on config in just a moment here, but show me sales in excess of $100 between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock, or any time during the day. Also, as far as business hours go, only during business hours or only during off hours, okay? So basically you've got your open and close hours, which we haven't come to. This is another area in the system that we'll take a look at later. Or you can just say, during business hours and off hours, anytime, it happens to be. The next thing we have over here is config. Now the contents of the configuration tab will change and be different based on whatever you've chosen for an alert. This particular one pertains to sales, so all this information in here is sales related. If it's a labor one, it'll be labor related, cash management related. So every one of these will have a different form of reporting and alerting on the system. But in here, what you can do is you can identify, for example, if the net sales or the gross sales of the transaction is greater than or less than $100, for example. And the interval for calculation on this per hour, per day, per month, or within a meal period, we'll say within the day, for example, and the period being current or previous, okay, being the current work shift or the previous work shift, for example. Then on this, do all that. Also, we have it within here, don't notice if no sales as well. So based on what I've selected in here, this is grayed out, but if I chose the right ones, then this would be applicable as well if it's no sales. That would have been probably less, I would think, yeah. Okay, the next thing we have here is, well, alert notice. On here, what is the title of this alert? Okay, so sales out of range alert, for example, and with whatever the message is going to be, put that within there. Return details of that particular information to the sender it's going to go to. You can have that or just leave it off as if you want. Coming over to delivery now, the method of delivery for this particular alert. First of all, when you're setting up your employees, you can identify them as a manager on duty. I know I'm running short on time here, so I'll just kind of quickly skip on through this and we'll be done. So if your flag is a manager on duty, leave it as that, and the manager on duty will then be notified via a broadcast message. You can send over here as a broadcast message on the POS. Boom, it'll show up on their screen. Hey, you got a thing that's over $100. Send only to clocked-in POS users. Okay, so I've got several managers on duty or several people, and some are clocked in, some are not. So who needs to be notified? If they're clocked in, notify them. If they're not clocked in, don't worry about it. Over in the left-hand side, job position delivery list. And so within here, I can identify, for example, a specific job position, all managers, for example. I can select on that, and you can do it that way. Also, if there's specific employees, I can select on this, and I can say, for example, Sarah. Okay, so notify specific employee, whoever happens to be on the system, about this. Also, down here, the form of delivery on this as well. I've got email and SMS. So email, you can send it out by email instead of a broadcast message as well. And also text messaging as well. Bear in mind there may be a cost, if there's text messaging done, but within this you can notify them by that. To do that, you can either add in an individual thing, such as an email address or a phone number, or you can do a lookup within their employee records, look up email, for example. So there's Sarah. So there's her email address I've got within her employee record, and also I have her text, her cell phone number as well. So in that case, then she will be notified by email and text message, and also as a broadcast on the system as well, that there was this particular sales alert on the system. Reset the alert generation upon new open day. Self-explanatory. New day, I don't care about what happened yesterday. Minimum delay before the same condition can generate the alert again. So in here, for example, if it's over $100 and there's no acknowledgement of it, then hey, $100, then oh, $100, then hey, $100, you can keep sending this thing. Or disable re-notification, in which case then send it once, leave it alone, and that's it. And then finally we have about, and then within about we have within here just notes pertaining to what this particular alert happens to be. And if you have a whole bunch of alerts, you can actually change around the icon that shows up for this as well, and just save that. So I've got this new little icon that shows up within there. And so that's how that handles it. And then within alert, you take a look at this, and if there were any things that showed up, they will show up within here, and you can be very specific in terms of which particular ones you want to review that were already done. All right, and that's Alert Manager, and that is everything with the exception of the ones that I was going to skip over within the general pull-down menu. Okay, now I'm really short for time. I kind of went over time, so you know what? I've got time for maybe just a couple of questions. So at this time, if there's anyone who has questions, I can take maybe about 2 or 3, and then that's it. We're going to be done. So this is your chance. Type in something. And let's see it, and make sure, please, it pertains to today's lesson, not something in general.